Morning, foxes, badgers and otters classes. It's Mrs. Martin here, and I'm going to take you through our English lesson today. So remember, we are looking at a type of poetry for the rest of this week and next week, which is called a cinquain poem. So today our learning objective is to plan a winter cinquain poem. So we're going to have a look today at planning the poem together. And then tomorrow you are going to have a go at writing your own cinquain poem. Now, remembering that yesterday we were our super detectives with our detective hats on and our magnifying glasses out ready, we were doing some hunting through those poems and seeing what different features we could see within them all. Can you remember any of those features that we discovered? In your book, can you write for me, please, the date, the LO, and then have a think about any of those features a cinquain poem needs to remember? See if you can list those down. Pause the video here for me. Okay, hopefully you remembered lots of those features, but don't worry if you think you've forgotten some of them, because we will recap them today as well. You will be experts at them by the end of next week. Okay, starting with our story map then. So if you would like to, you can pause the video here and practice our story map that we did together yesterday. Now remember, the story map and the model text are both on the class pages if you would like to have a go at that. Okay, let's see how many of these you remembered when you were trying to remember all the features of a cinquain poem. These were all of the ones we found yesterday when we were being detectives. We found that they always have 5 lines. For each line of the poem develops the subject of the first word. So if my first word was penguin, the rest of my poem would be describing the penguins. The lines were always written centered on the page, so it made the poem look a little bit like a diamond in shape. And then we worked out that each of those 5 lines had a pattern. Our first line was always the subject. It told us what the poem was about. So if my whole poem was about penguins, my first line, my first word would be penguin. My second line, that was my description. So that's where we had all of our adjectives to describe our subject. Our third line listed the actions, so all of our verbs that might remind you of the subject. Our fourth line was a bit trickier. This was a general feeling about it, and often the fourth line has 4 words in it. So we're looking for a phrase to do with the subject that has got 4 words. And then lastly, our 5th line was a conclusion or a synonym. So if I'm thinking maybe my poem was about spider, perhaps, maybe my conclusion or my synonym, that one word at the end might be arachnid, or it might be maybe a web weaver, perhaps. So it's a synonym of your subject, a word that reminds you of the subject, but it can't be the same word. Hopefully they're all ringing a bell now, because we're going to start planning our own cinquain poem. Now our poem is going to be on winter. I would like you to pause the video here for me, and on your daily timetable you will see a link to a video called Walking in the Air. Now this is from the film The Snowman, so many of you might have seen it before. But I would like you to watch carefully and see what ideas of winter you get as you are watching it, because we're going to magpie all of those ideas in a moment. So pause the video here for me and watch that video, Walking in the Air, which is on your daily timetable. Okay, hopefully you have got lots of ideas from that. Now, we are going to be writing our poem about winter. So, if you were to close your eyes and picture winter in your head, What scenes come up? What are you imagining right now? I know that if I were picturing winter in my head, I would be thinking about all of the things you can see on the screen right now. I would be thinking of that nice warm cup of hot chocolate, which might be defrosting my frozen icy fingers after I've been out in the cold. I might be sat next to my roaring fire as I was drinking that hot chocolate, with the flames engulfing those logs, and it's keeping me very toasty. I might be thinking of the winter clothes that I wear. I know winter's a very cold time of year, so I'm always wrapped up in my big, thick winter coat, maybe my woolly hat. Perhaps you might have a pair of winter boots that you wear, maybe some thick gloves. Maybe you have a big woolen scarf as well. Now, my favourite winter scene has to be one like this, where everything is covered in snow. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot of snow, but that doesn't stop me imagining how glorious it would be to wake up one morning and just be able to see snow everywhere, with snow on all of the trees, maybe little icicles hanging from the branches as well. Perhaps even enough that we could make a snowman. If I'm thinking of winter, I have to think about my favourite winter snack, which has got to be a mince pie. Now, for me, a mince pie has got to be warm with a little bit of cream on top as well. Oh, that's making me hungry. A nice warm mince pie, maybe with my cup of hot chocolate. I also might think about the red berries that I see on some trees. Now, the red berries for me especially stand out because the trees are barren apart from the berries. They've got no leaves on them anymore. It's almost like it's just the sticks, the branches, and then the pops of colour with those vibrant red berries. And of course, the bird that I see all the time in winter, the robin. The robin is a very iconic winter bird for me, definitely. I think that's why I always see it on lots of Christmas cards. Okay, what I would like you to do then is to create a mind map in your book for me, put winter in the middle, and then around the outside, I would like you to jot down all of the things you can think of when you think about winter. You might want to think about some of the things I spoke to you about, or maybe you have got your own ideas as well. So pause the video here for me and have a go at creating your own mind map. How many things can you think of to do with winter? Okay, here is my mind map so far. So as you can see on mine, I put robins searching for food, vibrant red berries, the only things left on the trees, logs crackling on the fire as the flames engulf them, hot chocolate warming my fingertips after a wintry walk, icicles hanging from the branches, trees coated in a dusting of snow. Can you pause the video here for me and have a look back at your mind map? See if there's anything you can now add to your mind map. Maybe you can expand upon some of the things that you have written already. So pause the video here for me. Hopefully you have got lots of brilliant ideas because we will be able to use those now when it comes to us planning our own poem. Now remember, our poem has got 5 lines and each line is to do with a different theme. So our first line is our subject. What's our poem about? What would be a good title for it? Now if I want my poem to be all about winter, there's only really one word that would make sense in my head as a subject, and that word has to be winter. So I'm going to have winter as my subject. You might choose to have winter as well, or maybe you've got a different word that you could choose to have instead. Pause the video here for me and have a go at writing your subject. What's your poem about? What would be a good title? Remember, we're all going to write our poems about winter. tomorrow. Okay, brilliant. So now we're on to line 2. Line 2 was our description. Now this is where we include adjectives to describe our subject. So if our subject is winter, I want some adjectives to describe winter. Now I thought of a few already. I thought of perhaps cold. I wasn't very sold on cold because I thought we could definitely come up with a more powerful synonym instead. So then I thought about freezing, Arctic, bare maybe. I thought about the land being, perhaps I could add in here, barren. There are no leaves on the trees anymore. Icy, snowy, sparkling. Sparkling came into my mind because I thought if you had that gorgeous view of the snow everywhere, that snow almost looks like it's sparkling like diamonds on the floor. Crackling, maybe the ice crackling underneath my feet as I walk on it. Can you pause the video here for me? Write line 2 description and then see how many adjectives you can come up with to describe winter. Remember, we want those really powerful adjectives so we can use them in our poems tomorrow. Pause the video. Okay, super. Hopefully you have got lots of fantastic adjectives that we can use when we write our poems tomorrow. On to line 3 then. So line 3 is the action. These are the verbs which we think of, which remind us of our subject. So we're thinking of some verbs here that remind us of winter. Now, if I'm thinking of verbs that remind me of winter, these are the ones that came to my mind. I thought maybe of hiking in winter, perhaps crunching over the ice, maybe shivering in the cold. Now, a few more that have come to my mind now are perhaps slipping, maybe slipping and sliding on the ice. Perhaps skating on the ice is another verb we could use as well. Oh, a good one I can think of, which is definitely linked to winter, would be hibernating. Perhaps hibernating could be one of our verbs. Can you pause the video here for me and list down all of the verbs that come into your head when you think about winter? Pause the video. Okay, line 4, perhaps the trickiest line. This is what feeling we get when we think about winter. So when we're thinking about winter, what is it that immediately pops into your head? Now remember that this line is going to be 4 words long. So it might be something like hot chocolate, filling bellies perhaps. Hot chocolate, filling bellies. What else might come into your head if you're thinking about winter? Perhaps you might think of snow, blanketing the ground. Okay, can you pause the video here for me and see if you can think of some feelings you get about winter, and try and make sure for me that they are 4 words long, like my examples. Pause the video. Okay, and on to the last line of our poem, which is going to be our conclusion or a synonym. So this is where we just need one word that we would use instead of our title of winter. So what word could I use which means winter or would give my reader the impression of winter without saying winter? Now I'm thinking for my poem that perhaps the word I might use might be frost instead of winter. Maybe instead of saying winter, I could say freezing. That definitely sums up winter as well, wouldn't it? Have a think for me now about what your end line could be. So we're thinking of all those synonyms we can find for winter. Pause the video here for me. Okay, hopefully you have come up with some wonderful ideas for each of the 5 lines of your poem. And we are going to use those 5 lines and all of those ideas that we thought of tomorrow in our writing lesson when we write our first poem together.